Hi everyone, and welcome to Bridging the Gap. I'm your host, Kelly Lovell, and this week we're joined by young social entrepreneur Brandon Sinclair. Brandon, could you please start us off by sharing a little bit about yourself and what you're passionate about?
We'll start with, I guess, my mission. My mission in this world now is it's been a journey, and it's taken a while to really truly understand what it is. But just over the last recent years of traveling North America and meeting some amazing people, I've gotten clear that it's really to transform Canadian healthcare, and kind of move society away from this chemical pharmaceutical world where we mask challenges and issues and pain that we're dealing with, and really empower and create this whole new movement called regenerative medicine. And all of the tools and the technologies, the biotech, it all exists in terms of being non-invasive and utilizing the natural principles like light, sound, vibration, and really showcasing and getting it into the mainstream healthcare and creating what that looks like for people so they can actually take control of their health and not have to live with and mask the problems, but really regenerate their body and allow their body to be what it's supposed to be so they can live a life they love and follow their passions and not be stuck in this mode of pain, depression, or health issues, which can be very debilitating and limiting. So my mission is to really create the model, which we've done and we're doing, and integrate that into our Canadian healthcare system to utilize and showcase Canada as the leading edge evolution of what healthcare looks like for actually the rest of the world.
And what brought you on this journey or down this path of regenerative medicine?
I'd say a lot of trial and error. So I started probably 6-7 years ago with my company, Your Legacy, and I started off in the more so the marketing realm, and I was creating nonprofits for professional athletes. Really understanding what it is they wanted to do in the world outside of their sport, and what they did on a daily basis, and how they could take their story and impact communities that meant something to them. So that's kind of where it started, and that went well for the first couple of years. And it's one of those things that you have to listen to your heart. And as much as I loved doing that, there was something that wasn't 100% fulfilling for myself, and it's just kind of listening to my intuition. And so after about 3.5, 4 years, I mean, we started to ramp things down and kind of close off that company. And I started to travel North America. And I started traveling North America, meeting with top scientists. And to give you context, I'm actually a big science geek. So I'm a big sports and science geek. So I've played sports my entire life, hockey specifically. Didn't make the NHL because I ripped my groin as a goalie. So decided to kind of pursue my passion for quantum and astrophysics. And it was in that passion, I kind of decided, why I do this for free. I spend 4 or 5 hours, a day just, researching and talking to people about this topic and these subjects. Why not figure out a way how to make this my career? And so that's when I made the decision to start traveling across North America, meeting with top physicists, scientists, entrepreneurs, and Nobel Prize laureates, working with science institutions, health institutions, just to understand what was actually out there and available to us in terms of medicine, in terms of healing, in terms of technology, and even bigger than just medicine, energy production and all this stuff, because I understand physics a little differently than the traditional sense. So I knew that what was possible with all of these things was much greater than we've kind of been taught and that we've understood. And I started meeting the people that thought like I did and actually had been creating some amazing products and things in those fields. So upon traveling and really getting to understand what was available, I started to see, and I also have to say, I started to utilize these technologies myself, and I could really feel the difference in the transformation it was making in my body. I don't like to take like pharmaceuticals. I don't like to take pills and stuff. So I like to find alternative ways, for myself to create that wellness and optimal health. And it was there. So, I started to look at how can we bring this to people in a way where it's understood? Because if I were to start talking to the average person about, utilizing light technology, which they call photobiomodulation, and the profound effects it can have on, healing bones, healing pain, regrowing nerves, treating, things like diabetes, they would look at me kind of funny. And so, I started to step back and say, well, how do we educate our society, our communities, and how do we make it and position it in such a way where it becomes the standard? And, in that journey, I started to meet some absolutely incredible people, the right people that, as I said, thought like I did, but also had experience launching products and technologies in global markets. And, within meeting these people, some people can call it divine luck, coincidence, whatever you position it. I mean, I look at it as there was no such thing as a coincidence. If you're in alignment with who you are and what you want to do, you're meant to meet the right people at the right time. And I did. And so together we kind of joined forces, and we started to look at and working with big time hospitals, research institutions, medical device companies, biotech companies. And we started to really listen to what they wanted to do and how they wanted to change the world and what would be of value for them. And then we created, a model that allowed us to take where Canadian healthcare is now and create win-win-win situations for all parties involved, including doctors, including medical institutions, private and public insurance companies, and most importantly, our society that are actually going to be utilizing these things and how to integrate it. So that's kind of where we are now. We're building our first facility and clinic in partnership with some major institutions and research facilities, and we've created the model that's going to take us from where we are now to I like to call it like a Star Trek futuristic kind of healing, where you can use these things like light, sound, and vibration, and really cause your body to regenerate itself, and utilize the things they call junk DNA, which is not really junk DNA, just they haven't understood how to use them. So that's kind of a long-winded response to how I kind of got started into this, and it just feels right. It excites me every day to get up and do it, and that's how I know I'm on the right track.
Well, I can appreciate that. In my own experiences, it's been a very similar path, although like different industry in the sense of like when you find your purpose, sometimes you don't necessarily, I think actually, oftentimes you don't necessarily know what it is at first. You just kind of feel this like draw, almost this magnetic pull that to go this certain way or to speak to these certain people. And then slowly I find it kind of evolves or snowballs and kind of that the lens clears, so to speak, and you become very kind of crystal clear of your journey. But at the start, you kind of have to just trust sometimes and follow the hidden cues, so to speak, in your life.
Absolutely. I think you nailed it. And it's one of those things where a lot of people at first won't understand, what you're doing, because, you may not necessarily understand it yourself because it's so new. And you have to be prepared to just really, as you said, trust in yourself, have faith in what you're doing. And despite what people, may say, if it's a bad idea or they don't get it yet, just really kind of push through that, and do what you love. And as you said, it all of a sudden just starts to snowball and takes off, and it starts to evolve. And then all of a sudden, all the people that didn't really get it are saying, wow, they're all of a sudden very impressed, and now they see it and they get it. But that startup period really does take perseverance and willpower.
I want to focus a little bit more on that because I think that's probably one of the most difficult parts is from kind of idea to kind of success is that in between limbo stage, so to speak, where you're trying to pursue something and create a future that people really haven't envisioned quite yet or don't understand. So you have to really have total faith in yourself to kind of push you forward despite perhaps skepticism of others. So do you have any like tips or techniques that you use to kind of overcome some of that pushback that you may have received?
Yeah, so I think it's been through trial and error that I've kind of found my ways and methodologies for dealing with that. Some of the things that really work for me is first and foremost, not taking anything personal. So, a lot of times we can tend to take somebody's word or comments to heart and allow it to kind of affect our perception or our reality. So it's something that you just, you can listen actively to somebody when they have feedback, but, don't let it throw you off or don't take it personal because They may have had a bad day. They may have tried something they think is similar to yourself and have, not done so well with it. That nobody knows what you know. So you just got to really not take it personal, and just keep moving forward with what you're doing. And maybe, pick little tidbits of information along the way. So I find, by not taking things personal, it doesn't affect my drive or motivation, because it's easy if you listen to everybody, it's easy to get down on yourself, to get down on your idea, and then you lose momentum. And when you lose momentum, you can see your body language changes, your tone of voice changes. And now all of a sudden, when you're starting to talk about your idea with somebody that could be an important piece of your puzzle, you don't have the same enthusiasm and excitement and energy. And people really thrive off that. I mean, I'm sure, all the amazing people you talk to, you have conversations where they just click. You know what I mean? They're exciting, they're full of energy, and it really moves and progresses your ideas and what you're doing forward. And then I'm sure you've experienced the conversations that don't click, and how if you allow it to affect yourself and your idea, it can really slow and hinder your progress, and kind of just take the fun out of it. So it's really about not taking things personally, I find, first and foremost. And the second thing I do every single day, and it's my practice has been developing, is meditation. So I find when I make decisions or have to take action, it's extremely important for me to be at peace and in alignment with myself. So when I meditate, meditation looks different for everybody. We all find our ways of what that means and how we do it. It could be outside in nature, walking around. It could be, quieting your mind with your eyes closed in front of a candle. It could be, listening to, binaural soundtracks that take you through guided meditations. But whatever it is, it allows you to get in your place of calmness. It allows you to get into your place of focus. And, I find the most trustworthy thing I can rely on is my intuition. And my intuition is always on top notch, on par when I'm in a place of peace and alignment. When I'm nervous or anxious or have fear, I tend to make bad decisions. So meditation really allows me to get back into my zone and make the best choices going forward.
Well, certainly, to that point, I found always also taking time. Sometimes we're so rushed to want to jump on opportunities or to push our ideas forward, but even just taking those couple minutes for that meditation, or like you said, to make sure you're in alignment, sometimes can make the world a difference, just so you don't make rash decisions. And I guess the best way, the long game versus the short game, so to speak. Always make sure you have time to think about the long game, despite maybe the razzles and dazzles that might be in your immediate future. So to speak.
Exactly.
Now, you had mentioned meeting a lot of individuals that have kind of helped you on your journey. And I'm always kind of curious to learn, because it's one thing to kind of hear our voice, but kind of learning from the wisdom of those who've kind of come in our path is always usually unique to the individual. So looking back, is there a specific piece of advice that a mentor or a colleague has given you that has stood out to you?
That's actually a really good question. I think there's so many little tidbits and pieces of advice that have kind of shaped who I am and my thought process. And it always seems that the right person seems to come into my life at the right time and just provide me these little, tidbits of wisdom that allow me to move forward, with my mission and purpose. I think somebody that really has impacted, my mission and purpose is this gentleman by the name of Jay Patterson from Empowered Wealth Canada. Um, I met Jay when I was kind of a younger entrepreneur. I was about 22, and I wanted to tackle the world, and I wanted to do it now and very fast. And Jay is an older, wiser gentleman, and he really kind of taught me how to take all these great, exciting ideas, and how to prioritize them. How to do them in a way and with the methodology of execution, and how to kind of create a structure. I think that was the most important thing for me, was to create a structure around what I'm doing. Because if there's no structure, it's just kind of, I'm just, you're throwing stuff at a wall and you're hoping this sticks or you're hoping that works. So he really taught me how to utilize a structure to my benefit. And he told me this one story that was great. And essentially, the PG-13 version of it is there's these two buffaloes walking down a hill, and there's a whole bunch of female buffaloes at the bottom of the hill. And the one buffalo was a younger buffalo, and he was running down the hill saying, I'm gonna impress them all. I'm gonna go down there and mate with them all. And the older wise buffalo kind of strolled down the hill with patience and chose the right one that was important to him. And it's kind of a funny story, and it may not mean something to everybody, but essentially the purpose and the moral of it was to do things, in a right state of mind, relaxed, don't get over anxious or overexcited, and the true meaning and purpose and intention will emerge, and things will fall into place beautifully. And since working with Jay, I've started to invoke those principles and kind of doing things with intention and purpose, and not trying to get everything done at once. And I've noticed that has moved my business and my life further ahead and faster than I could have ever have done by just kind of coming out of the gun and just trying to get it all done and do everything at once. And it also has provided balance in my life. I find when you can really come from a place of clarity and focus and patience, the work is better, you make better decisions, and you get things done a lot more efficiently than just kind of trying to do it all in a hyper mind state. So Jay Patterson from Empowered Wealth definitely has had a huge impact in my life. And his wisdom and values will forever carry forward with me.
For those who might be in a similar space to kind of where you originally described, where they're kind of bubbling with ideas, they know they want to do something, but aren't quite haven't quite found that compass, so to speak, that you have to guide them on kind of which is the right one to pursue. Do you have any advice to help kind of clear the noise, so to speak, to identify which buffalo, so to speak, is the one they should be going after?
I think it's to step back. So you kind of said it, Kelly, when you had mentioned the importance of stepping back. When we get excited about something, when we get really eager, when we hear something for the first time, a lot of I know I had this, the shiny, what do they call it, the shiny key syndrome, or the shiny object syndrome, where it's like, oh, that looks great, oh, that looks great, oh, that looks great. What's really important to, when you feel yourself getting excited, and getting anxious, it's totally cool and awesome to do that, but take a step back, take a few moments to breathe. And I usually like to write down on paper what this means for me, short term, midterm, and long term. How will this impact what I'm doing going forward? Does this make sense? Is this going to be of value in all areas of my life? And just to mention, part of the Empowered Wealth process that Jay had taught me was it's creating balance in what he calls the 4 quadrants of life. So my family life, my financial life, my community life, and the core life. So what's important to me on an interpersonal level. And so I like to really evaluate opportunities or things that come into my experience on if they make sense in all 4 quadrants of my life, in all areas. And if they don't make sense in all 4 areas, I don't do them. Even if they're okay in 3, and there may be a lot of money involved, if they're not in all 4, it doesn't make sense for me, and so I won't take action on them. So it's really about finding what your process is for decision making. Find one, whether it be 4 quadrants, whether it be identifying short term, midterm, long term, whatever that is. Have a process. Have something that you can really speed up the way in which you can identify good opportunities from not so good opportunities, and just breathe. Deep breaths. I find sometimes we get so excited and anxious, your breathing speeds up, and you're in kind of that excited mode. It's very important to actually focus on slowing your breathing down. And when you slow your breathing down, your physiology changes, and you seem to be able to get into a place of clarity and focus, and be able to make decisions, in a more appropriate fashion for yourself. So I find those things tend to work well for me.
And then looking at kind of your peers and young leaders, this series looks kind of to youth as with a lens of a change generation compared to perhaps other stereotypes and labels that are out there. When you consider your peers and kind of the power that young entrepreneurs and leaders have, what is your view and take on that?
Oh, I think it's tremendous. I mean, the cliche is the young leaders or younger generations are the leaders of tomorrow, and it's absolutely correct. very cliche, but correct. I mean, at one point we're all going to be 30, at one point we're all going to be 40, and we're going to be in positions and have experience and do things that have tremendous impact. But I mean, I've seen 8-year-old entrepreneurs make a difference. I think it really just comes down to your mindset. If you believe you can make a difference, you can and you will. And what I find of tremendous value for younger entrepreneurs that really want to make an impact and difference is it's really important to find maybe somebody with experience, or a little older, in a position where you can co-create and collaborate with, because having great ideas and being a ball of energy is extremely valuable and important. But it's also important to have the right key networks and contacts, so you can get these ideas out into the world and showcase what it is you want to do and achieve. So I mean, age, with the internet and YouTube, age is no longer really a factor. It just really comes down to your will and your determination and your drive to succeed. And it's really anything is possible. And I think actually there's something to be said about younger leaders actually having a greater impact in a faster amount of time, because people say, wow, look how young this person is and look what they're doing. And I mean, it kind of really excites and adds new energy to topics, or to industries, or to areas that they're looking to impact. And I think it also makes people, hopeful and excited that change is coming, because, it's being brought forth by the younger people that will, have years ahead of them to really create that next level of evolution. So it doesn't really matter how old you are.
And with that in mind, with the next level of evolution, what is in your future? Where do you hope to take your work in the near future?
I'd say in the near future, we're kind of utilizing the Ontario is kind of like a starting point. I mean, I think every idea, every concept needs, you need to start somewhere. And so we're focusing on Toronto specifically, but on Ontario. So we're looking to actually utilize that as let's say a platform to launch our Canadian healthcare reform model, integrate with other provinces, to then leverage it on an international scale for the rest of the world. So we're starting, as I said, step one is local / provincial. Step two is our nation, and step three is impacting the entire world. I mean, the sky is the limit. Everybody needs to take care of their body and understand what leading edge biotech means, and we're just excited to really start in our own backyard and start with friends, family, people that are around us, and take it on the international scale.
That's incredible. Well, Brandon, I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us and share a little bit of your evolution and story with our community. Even just in this short amount of time speaking to you, I already feel calmer, as you can tell. My personality is very go, energetic. So you certainly have already kind of even helped me in getting some clarity in these moments. So I do appreciate it, and I'm sure many of our listeners may be feeling the same way. So thank you.
It's been my absolute pleasure, and I appreciate everything you're doing for the youth and for the entrepreneur like mind people, because it can get crazy out there, and we really rely on people like yourself, Kelly, to help give us guidance and structure and direction. So keep up the awesome work, and we're so excited for what you're doing.
Thank you. For those of you listening, it's your turn. What do you think? Add your thoughts to the discussion using the hashtag Bridging the Gap. And give this podcast a thumbs up if you like some of the comments and advice that has been shared today.